we go. Ah, yes, a beautiful sunny day here in Beloit, Wisconsin.
You've got sunshine? Because I haven't seen sunshine in like 4 days.
No, I'm kidding. It's just gloomy again.
I figured you were.
I mean,
I feel like there's cloud cover across the entire country. You got even like California's got cloud cover. It's been this morning. I was positive. I was out walking waffles. It was cold. We're supposed to get like 2 inches of snow tonight, and so I knew eventually it was going to get overcast. But I looked up and I could see every single star, and I was like, "Today's the day. Sunshine, baby. It's back." And then I came in, I got dressed, started doing a little bit of work, had a cup of coffee, looked outside, totally overcast. Totally. It was like as soon as the sun was gonna come out, it was like, psych, cloud cover. And I'm just, I don't mind the cold, man. I would seriously, I'd rather it be 5 degrees and sunny than 40 or 35 degrees and overcast.
Yeah, I agree, man. I was out running yesterday, and the sun came out for about 15 minutes. And it was nice. It was freezing, huh?
Did you get baked?
I was freezing, and I started sweating buckets like in 10 minutes. I was like, what is this? And then it got me thinking, about running in the cold and, trying to open those lungs up. It's a little trickier, I think, sometimes.
It is, man. And it's so funny how quickly we forget, like when the temp changes, in like April or May, when we kind of, go back and forth between 40s and 70s. And we always kind of like, I can't believe it's so hot. It's like 65 and 70, but that's how quickly we kind of lose our ability to perform in any kind of temperature, whether it's really, really cold or, our tolerance. It's just interesting how quickly your body can adapt, but also, which is a good thing, right? Or lose its adaptation, right? Or it's like, drops down to 40 in October, you're like, God, it's freezing outside. And now you're like 40, you're like, shorts and a t-shirt, maybe some gloves.
Yeah, I know.
And that's why those April and May races are always kind of tough and tricky, because you haven't had time to adapt, and you're expecting, your fitness level to be representative of what you're usually doing in the 30s and 40s. And all of a sudden you've got, and then we forget humidities right now is in like the 30s, dew points below 30. And then all of a sudden it gets like above 50, and you feel like you're just sweating bullets and breathing out of a straw. And it's just, but yeah, it's, the human body is both amazing and reminds us frequently that it can adapt, but also forgets. And it kind of gives us what we need for the time of the year. But it's our time for today. Today is what? What is today?
It says Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, January 24th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast, episode 653.
Yeah, you're right. And it is Tuesday. I had to look at the computer to realize that. And we do Tuesday podcasts all the time. But I got to tell you, man, I'm kind of, I know you run outside a lot in the cold. I'm really getting back in the groove with it, man. It's like, I like the ice. I like the cold. It's something about it that just kind of makes you feel a little grittier.
It makes you feel gritty. It makes you feel alive. Yeah. And
alive. That's a good thing too.
Yeah. It's doing anything around to make you feel alive is a good thing. And we hope today's podcast participates in that, helps you make you feel alive. It's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe, and just podcasts in general. Your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level triathletes looking on their very first 5K or sprint, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to the world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and Training Peaks emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also frequently utilize our Facebook group like we will today. And you can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer multiple questions or let you right in. Amazing community, awesome people, fantastic resource. It really is. It's a community with all kinds of different abilities and athletes and experience levels in there that have done it all, seen it all, been through it all, and most of them are willing to lend a helping hand in your triathlon journey, help you avoid some of the pitfalls that we've all faced along our way, and help you, have a great, happy, and healthy journey of your own. And occasionally, like today, we go in there and do a little bit of a Q&A, take questions from the people, and answer them as best we can on the podcast. We did the first part of that on last Thursday, and we'll finish that up today. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking it's getting towards the end of January, and I'm sure a lot of people have had their ups and downs this month, but it's time to get, your shit together if you're going to be doing some stuff this year.
I mean, it's been time. It's been time. I mean, let's just be honest. It's that time every week. And it is. I'm telling you, this is the end of. It's crazy because the month's almost over, right? Like we've already kind of checked off the first month of the year. And, we always talk about, really no month is more important than the other month. But if you've kind of sloughed off January, you've already given up 8% of your year. 89% a year. It's done. Giving it away, handed it away, gone. You just can't do that. I mean, you just can't. I mean, you can tread water, you can move forward, you can choose not to be, but there's we'll hop into questions here in a minute, but I will say just, before again we get to these questions is if there's a theme that I've seen in athletes the last 2 weeks, it's been two main kind of themes with Training Peaks comments, emails, text messages, weekly summaries. The vibe is one, I'm done with winter. I'm done. I'm done. It was fun while it lasted, but I'm done. I'm tired of the cold. I'm tired of being stuck inside, right? A lot of places get legit snow. They're on the treadmill, they're on their trainer. If they are going to the pool, they're inside. They're just over it, right? They need vitamin D. And you know what else do people need right now? People. I've read more comments not that you and I have been preaching this for the last 3 years, but more comments in the last, 2 to 3 weeks about needing interaction than I probably read since the middle of 2020. And I'm telling you, I'm hoping, I really am hoping and believing that we're going to see a shift back to the way things used to be, which was group workouts and get-togethers and running with buddies and making time, to do things with people. And it's just, you just see that. And I'm seeing it more and more now, even if it's not swim, bike, and run specific, right? They still want to swim and bike and run their own, but it's going to a yoga class, right? Or going to a spin class, or, going for, if it is cycling, going to, ride with your buddies on Saturday. There absolutely is no substitute for human interaction in person, not via Zoom, not FaceTime, not texting, not sending videos on, Snapchat, Tinder Talk, but straight up face-to-face human interaction. There's nothing like it. And especially this time of year when I think it's all kind of consolidated because people don't do that much anyway outside because it's cold and dark and dreary, and it doesn't really want to make. It's not like people are going outside and having bonfires and luau's in the middle of summer with perfect weather and having get-togethers and grilling out. If people are dressing up, and dressing up means 4 sweatshirts and a jacket because it's freaking cold outside, and they're staying inside because it's just too cold and miserable, right? And the sun goes down at 5, and so people just continue to retreat and retreat and retreat, and then we end up missing some of the biggest things that are required, right, for ultimate happiness and energy, which is sunlight, right, vitamin D, and human interaction. And so those have been the two themes that, again, before we go into questions, I can't encourage people enough to make sure you're taking time for yourself and doing things that make you feel connected and make you feel alive and make you feel like you have other people around you, right? It's a big difference in texting somebody about problems or connecting, right, face to face. And so, if you haven't been doing that, make time to do it.
Yeah, man, it's like we always talk about that in reference to run camp and how most people end up going to run camp and doing kind of more things than they thought they could do. And it truly is. I mean, when you're getting around people, you're sharing energy. I mean, you're getting energy literally from other people. And I think we just don't do that. I mean, I'm on a group text thread with some buddies, that live around here. And I'm just jumping on their ass. I'm like, are we going to just keep texting? We're going to go like have lunch or something, anything like that, because it always changes the game for me when you're, it could be the simplest thing, but yeah, man, make it happen. Otherwise, and sometimes it's tough, like you said, it's a short days, it's dark, we got to work, blah, blah, blah. You come home, you're on the trainer. The other thing we talked about, I think last week, but just turning inward has really had an interesting effect on me. It's sort of like, okay, well, that shit is not, plentiful right now, but this is really a great time, to put on the hoodie and just kind of get dark and go for it. And really just kind of, bide your time in a sense where you're focusing on a mission and being patient about it, and coming out in a couple months or 3 weeks or whatever, and being sort of, improved and stronger and a different person. It's easy to do that. I mean, I shouldn't say it's easy, but it's just sitting there. And if you don't have the option of being in a big community or whatever, do something good for yourself. And then, come out later and then people look at you and go, damn, what have you been doing?
Mm-hmm.
I've been focused.
Been working and focused. Yeah, no, it is. It's again, that's our public service announcement for all of you people that we love and care about that listen and go out and share the message. Susie, RE goals. Best process for setting goals for the upcoming season and thoughts on setting stretch goals that some may think are unachievable versus playing it safe. Goals knowing they're virtually a slam dunk with consistent training. I've gone both ways. Missing a goal can be deflating, but setting an easier goal leaves you wondering if you could have done more. This is a great question, and I think it's fairly complex for each individual. I don't know that a safe goal is a goal. Like that would be like me saying, I like to lose 1 pound this year. Like that, to me, that's a safe goal. Like, I'm pretty sure I could do that.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As I get older, it seems a lot more challenging.
I was thinking, man, that's a hell of a goal for me right now.
Yeah, but what I think is important, right, is when you think about, what people choose and pick and how they verbalize those feelings, is you should always be doing something that scares you. Right. And I think one of the biggest questions that athletes can always ask themselves is, if I'm picking a goal, why am I picking it? And if I understand why I'm picking it, what does it really mean to me? Right. Like, do I want to finish? Well, why? Why is it important to you? And where do these goals overlap with other things in my life? Like, I want to be consistent. I want to, break 12 hours. I want to finish an Ironman, whatever it is. Don't make them. I don't see the point in making easy goals, but some people do, right? Because they need that low barrier of success, because if they don't meet it, then they're devastated. But I think the question I would ask you, Susie, specifically is, because I mean, a virtual slam dunk with consistent training, like, to me, that's not a goal. Like, you should be challenging yourself, but missing a goal, if it's super deflating, why is it so deflating? Right. If just the event itself, right, that has a lot of uncontrollables, what are you not learning and growing enough along the way to where you see the positives totally outweigh you falling short, right, on race day? And I think that's such a critical piece that most people miss year after year after year is they look at the race as this defining moment, right? Instead of the training that is a culmination, right, of an entire year or weeks or months of training that's made them better, healthier, not just mentally, but physically and emotionally. It's probably made you a better spouse, a better parent, a better worker, better in life, right? You learn things and connect to people. Like, to me, that's such a giant net positive that there's really no negative that can happen on race day that would erase all those. And I think most people they don't ask themselves, or they ask, but they're just not frankly honest enough with themselves about why they have a goal to begin with. Like, why do you need this specific goal? And if it means that much to you, is it really fair to put that much weight behind it that if you do fail, right, it's going to be that devastating? Because to me, that's not the point of a goal, right? The point of a goal is to absolutely push yourself to a new limit and to do something that scares you. I mean, I don't think unachievable. And first of all, who cares what other people think? That's unachievable. That's unattainable. That's unthinkable. Well, that is to you, but you can keep that, keep your thoughts to yourself, because that's not how it goes for me, and I think that's another huge piece. But I think goals are very complex for each individual, because within it is totally wrapped up with, like we always say, it's kind of always a battle between our ego, but also our lack of confidence. And I think those are both, like, ego and self-confidence, and lack of self-confidence is what basically spurs on every goal. And so answering which one goes with which, right, is, I think, a crucial piece to figuring out what goals are best for you in the course of the year.
Yeah, you said a lot of good stuff there, man. And I do think that when, especially in this context with triathletes and things like that, when the term goal comes up, it does automatically sort of link itself to a time in a race. And I think that's a sketchy goal, because, like you've said often, but you could be selling yourself short for whatever reason. You just don't know now. And for me, it's sort of like, I've kind of gotten more into this thing about less setting goals. They're sort of targets or whatever, but like for me, it's just generally to, perform at my best. And what I do is I try to add things up, right? Like you said, lose a pound in a year or whatever, but maybe that becomes a pound in a week or whatever. And then those things all turn out to be winners in the end. And, you can really take yourself a long ways if you're really building habits. And that's always been a challenge for me, is just having good habits on a daily basis. And when I get up in the morning now, these days, one of the things on my mind has been, like you said, do something hard today. And that doesn't necessarily mean go out and crush myself on the bike or run ridiculous amounts. It means maybe going outside and running, or it might mean something like, spend time in yoga, or spend an hour writing. It doesn't have to be always a physical challenge. It can be a mental challenge. And for me, that can just be something as simple as getting workouts done, or getting down to Del Boca Vista. And because when I get there, that's the hard part, is getting there. When I get there, I'm usually back to community. There's, my people are there, and there's always sort of it just takes over kind of once you get somewhere. So goals, like, I have audacious goals in my head, and you said it, don't tell people this stuff, because that alone takes ridiculous amounts of energy from you. We were kind of talking about that before the podcast, but just talking about that kind of stuff is not doing that kind of stuff. And you have to just keep the day to day in a manageable position, and hope that, or trust, I guess, that it's all going to turn out. Because I can't, I've been in a good groove lately, and it's got nothing to do with doing Ironman Wisconsin. I mean, I thought I had a goal last year going into that race, and when I got to that start line, my goal was to finish the damn thing in the worst, weather imaginable. So you just got to have realistic expectations. But I think, it's good to work toward a target, a general target. And then, that may end up being a low bar if you can kind of put day-to-days together throughout the year.
I mean, it's so funny about how when everyone hears goals, right, they think the bigger, the harder the goal is. That's not the case. Like small goals can be, kind of like we joked about, like losing a pound over the course of the year. That might be a hell of a lot harder than it actually sounds, right? Like perfect example. When I wrote up my training plan for this week, I wrote specifically, my goal for this week was to run or ride every single day this week, make time for myself. Then I put 2 little custom boxes. One was titled Self-Care Physical, and I had walk and run the dog, do 30 seconds to a minute of planks, and do 10 to 15 push-ups, okay? And the next one was Self-Care Emotional Mental, and it was at least 5 minutes of meditation, do my breath work, take a cold shower. So yesterday I got up, I ran the dog, right? 30 minutes, check that box, boom. Not only did I exercise and run, I also walked the dog, check, okay? Well, Waffles he's a puppy, so he has this buzz collar. And I got back from the run this morning. It was totally pitch black, gone. And they're not cheap. And I was like, maybe it's in the grass. Maybe it dropped off his body, And so I spent the whole day, right? The busiest day of the week for me is a Monday. So I spent my time looking, already got my run in, checking these boxes out, took my cold shower after the run, went back out in the middle of the day, reran the run route backwards to see if I could find it. Didn't find it. Went back out again 2 hours later and walked Waffles on the same route. Waffles is like Kenyan shape right now. He is like ready to roll. And went back out, couldn't find it, made time for that, made time for an extra run, made time for my meditation, made time for my breath work, made time for all those things. And right before I was getting in bed last night, I told myself, man, you didn't do your push-ups and you didn't do your planks. It would have taken me less than a minute and a half. And I actually chose, and I said, I'm too tired of not doing it. So all those goals, right, I checked off the list. Most people would think, well, doing basically an total extra run would be, the hardest thing to do for the day. To me, it was no brainer. I was like, I'm going to go out and do it. But the push-ups and the planks to me were the hardest and most difficult piece because, one, it's not something that I'm accustomed to doing or making time for. And I think, again, like when we hear the word goals, we for some reason think they've always got to be these these hairy, audacious, huge, gigantic goals that, people think are unreasonable if you've never done before. But oftentimes it's the small ones that are hardest to do, right? The details, like, not doing your mobility work, not doing, a cool down, missing a swim for the week, like those small details, those are less and far more less attractive to yourself and other people that you're less likely to do them. Right? It's the big ones that get your biggest investment. And it's incredibly difficult to spread your energy out in the perfect amount to where the small details matter as much as the big details matter. But what I found over the course of my hobbyist triathlon career and also working with athletes is that when athletes put all of their energy and focus into the small details that matter each day, then the end goal is oftentimes realized and achieved. And it's a lot less pressure that way. And so, again, because you don't get lost in the self-sabotage and the fear of failure. It's not like, my fear of failure. My year's ruined by not doing the planks and the, and then the push-ups. I'm going to do them today, but it's not like, man, I missed that today. My chances of doing a whatever at whatever race this year, that just went down 5%. Now I'm behind the 8 ball. Like, that's hard to overcome. So again, just don't always think of goals as these crazy things that, you've got to publicize. The hardest part is just nailing things each day. And oftentimes it is those small details, right? It's not skipping your warm up. It's not skipping your mobility. It's getting in your extra swim. It's making time for the specifics, eating right, sleeping right, treating your body right. Those are all things, going to bed on time, not spending 45 minutes on YouTube watching fucking cat videos. Like, that's the stuff that people should focus on. But it's the hardest part, right? Because it doesn't kind of register on our brain of this, like, very fulfilling dopamine hit, right? And it's, or that we get from telling people, it's like, dude, you guess what I did yesterday? Did my 30-second planks and 10 push-ups. They're like, oh man, you crushed it. It's like, no one cares. They'll be like, really? That's all you do? Like, that's crazy. I do 100 push-ups and 100 pull-ups all day long. It doesn't register. And if it doesn't register, if you don't think it doesn't register for other people, it's not going to register for you. But on the flip side, the only person that it does matter that it register for is you.
Man, first of all, obviously I've always been kind of a push-up guy. I have a sort of a trigger that I set up. Every time I turn on the TV, I do push-ups, and then every time I see a commercial, I do push-ups. So I just stopped watching TV, so I don't do them anymore. But anyway.
Or let's see, we watch, we got Hulu and Netflix, but we've got the no ad commercial subscription, so that's out the window.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's the only good thing about normal TV now is commercials and push-ups. But anyway, so I think it's an interesting thing to think about is this concept of regret. It's sort of like we have small regrets in the moment, and we think then we kind of, like you mentioned something about watching, like going to YouTube late at night or whatever, and just kind of mindlessly watching crap for like 45 minutes, right? And that's plenty of time to do your push-ups and planks or whatever it is that you kind of was blowing off. And it's like, it's easy to kind of distract yourself from that little bit of regret. But if we can think about that regret piece as in how long regret of not having the race you wanted to have is going to last versus how long that regret of skipping push-ups was. And it's sort of like reframing what's going on in your mind. And if you can kind of like tie that into, I want to do the best I can, because how many people have done it? We've just like, we create excuses and blow stuff off. And then all of a sudden the race comes, and we talk about this a lot too. It's like, I don't know, this race is going to go. I didn't really, I kind of, didn't train hard. And I talked about last year, I kind of came in late. I had my built-in excuse, and there's no reason for it. I just sort of put it off because I just was lollygagging around all summer until I had to turn it up to the point where I knew I could get the race done, but it wasn't going to be my race. I had that excuse in there. So I don't want to say I regret the race, but I kind of do. I kind of think I could have obviously done better and trained harder and all that kind of stuff. But I just think it's easy to kind of live in short-term regret and kind of wash it away versus thinking about really what that means. Are you going to look back, a year from now and be like, damn it, I should have been doing that all along. Get in the habit, Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh.
The next one, Jeff Terra. Are the Bruins and Hayden's top 5 hockey teams? Their goaltending has quote unquote slayed lately, and their record is bussin'. The Bruins, from what I know, are probably the best team in hockey right now. I don't know that they're in Hayden's top 5. It's the Preds, the Dallas Stars, LA Kings, and the Vegas Golden Knights. Those are kind of his go-tos. The Bruins seem like they have the best record in the NHL. So you never know. Kids are mostly go with who wins. So we'll see.
Aren't all the good hockey teams in the South? No, I actually stopped watching hockey when Tony Esposito retired from the Blackhawks.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been about 50 years.
Yep, it's been a minute. Amber Hinline, Mike and Robbie, excluding anything living, if you were stranded on a desert island and all your basic needs are taken care of, what is one thing you absolutely could not live without? This is simple. Coffee. Without question. The answer for me is coffee.
We're on an island?
We're apparently on an island, yes. Not just an island, but a desert island. I don't know if you meant to say deserted, but desert island.
A desert island. So that means no water? Like for swimming or something?
What are you doing right now? I don't know what she actually means right now. I mean, if we're an island, I'm sure we're surrounded by salt water. So we've got some water, but you can't really drink salt water.
Yeah. Huh. I think it might be my Zen book. I'd have to really like go next level in that situation. So I assume we have food, right?
Well, dude, I don't. I feel like I'm talking to Hayden right now. No, I don't. No, I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Well, you have to assume we have food, or else we wouldn't live very long. So it wouldn't matter.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Couldn't we live without?
Water.
Yeah. Yeah. So Amber, wait. Come on, give us a break. It's a Tuesday. Like we've already got enough stuff going on.
Maybe a loincloth.
You're really hard.
I think loincloth would be my thing.
Loincloth. Dude, you got trees there to take the leaf.
Oh, you can make your own. Yeah. Yeah, I think the book, Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, or whatever the hell it's called. That's not really the name of it.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll take it. Michael Tate, in 25 years, oof, I feel old in 25 years, as technology marches forward, what kinds of times will pros be putting down in the various distances? What about age group athletes? That's a good question. I honestly, I don't think it's technology based, right? Like, when you look at as soon as the 4-minute mile barrier was broken, it's been shattered and continues to go lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. And it had absolutely nothing to do with technology. Zero. It all had to do with showing people that it could be done. And that goes across all sports, right? If you have people in generations where they see something as going back to the goals, right? Almost unachievable or unattainable. As soon as you have one person do it, you actually influence the next generation that it can be done. And so some person that's younger might look at, the new, Ironman World Championship record in Kona and be like, I'm going to go under 7:30. And that kid might be 12. And so they're going to have a 10-year head start on doing all the things. So I really don't think it has anything to do with technology. I think it's more about, because I think bikes are as fast as they're ever going to get. That's going to, affect like times moving drastically in all the disciplines. Kayla Decky, I think she's got like the top 20 fastest ever in the history of like the mile by one person, right? But now we've got an athlete in the U.S., another female who's nibbling at her feet to catch her because she's younger. Because what she did, I don't know the full story, but I would imagine it's because she saw that it could be done. And I think that's for me and for humans, like we have like not even come close to touching what we're capable of as a species in terms of basically all things in life, but especially athletically. And so I think, as you see different generations, like I think the record this last year at Kona will fall in 2 years for the men. I mean, not because of technology, but because people can see it can be done, right? And you look at things differently. And I think that's more important, just like it is when athletes have personal breakthroughs. It's not technology based, but once they see they can go sub 10-minute pace for an easy run, once they see they can go, 6 hours for a 70.3, once they see they can finish a sprint, it's not technology that's going to make them do an Olympic, right? It's belief. And so I think it's that healthy belief, or that healthy balance, between belief and almost kind of an arrogant optimism that's like, I'm doing this. And the people that have that attitude do it, but they have to have it for such a long period of time to make it stick. And so I really think it's about, the ability, the person, and the belief. That to me is what drives the ceiling and not so much the science and not so much the technology, because honestly, like training and technology, like, and methods, those aren't nearly as complex as an individual person. And all you need is the right individual person that thinks, F that. No, you can't go sub 7:30 in Ironman. Watch me. Right. And so I think we're just going to continue to see times fall as people, come through and generations see other generations doing this. And then they're not going to think, as competitors and athletes, at least for, most competitors and athletes, they don't think, maybe, I think I'm going to spend the next 10 years just trying to come close to that. Maybe I can get fourth. No, you think I'm going to break that. I'm going to break that record. And then it happens. And I think, and that's what, people who have that kind of mentality of, of that never say die, that you have to have, I think, again, this internal belief that to other people might sound naive or might sound ridiculous and might sound, overly cocky. But in order to get to the highest level, I think in all things in life, you have to have that kind of ridiculous optimism that flies in the face of most people's reality. And that's how times and records are broken.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I also think that a big difference now versus the days of Dave Scott and Mark Allen. I mean, back then they had all their workouts and ideas and tricks. They were probably like hidden in some kind of index card holder somewhere in secrecy. And now they're out there just telling, everybody's just saying what they're doing. You know, Katie Ledecky's probably talking about how she trains, and all that information's out there. And, you know, since the internet's come along, it's been like, there's podcasts and people just, you know, spew every secret in the book. It's just a matter of you, like you're saying, I mean, you can see other people do it, and that's like, oh, you could, you know, you grew up with your buddy and you're like, wait, you're doing that? I can do that. Cause I remember, you know, I used to dust you in dodgeball or whatever, you know, you kind of have that, like, have that upper hand in some ways, but the catch is you can see that, but you have to get that and build that confidence by building like your own resume of accomplishments. And the stronger resume you build, the more belief you'll have. And like you said, I mean, you've got the information's out there. I mean, you got Warren Buffett telling you how to invest if you want to watch a video. I mean, Jesus, it's right there, but you got to pick yours, pick what works for you, and build that resume on your own so you can believe in yourself and not just always chase, you know, other things. It's just, it comes back to, you know, the information's there. You got to create your belief, and then you got to do the work.
And for a long period of time.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's again what separates the winners and the world the world record breakers from the ones who fall short, right? Is this the continuous pursuit and relentlessness. But yeah, it's a great question. Armelda Hansen, hello, found your podcast not long ago, and as a recovering total immersion book video student, I'm headed to my local chapter of Del Boca Vista to shove a pool buoy between my legs, just swim and see where the next month lands me. However, how do I adjust my breathing pattern to a faster arm turnover if I fell prey to the super slow method and thought I could float my way through my first Ironman? Should I still be breathing with every stroke, adjust every other? Love the podcast. Thank you. Well, first off, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for the kind words. Yeah, I mean, I've always said this, and either the next week when we do another round of How to Not Suck at Swimming podcast, I'll go over this again. But an Ironman, a 70.3, an Olympic, even a sprint, they're aerobic events, which means with oxygen. So there is literally no reason to breathe every 3 strokes. You should pick one side and breathe to it. Breathe to it every single time. You know, there'll be people, oh, you need to learn how to adjust the the undulation of the waves and the sun. You need to be able to breathe, you know, perfectly on both sides. You're always going to breathe to the side. It's going to like flight or fight response. Doesn't matter what the wave's doing. Doesn't matter what the sun's going on. Once you get in open water with 3,000 people, you're gonna breathe the side you're most comfortable on. So find a side that's comfortable and fast and stick with it. Breathe every stroke. But yes, you should breathe every stroke. And, you know, the breathing pattern takes some time because total immersion with how slow the stroke rate is, you have about, 3.5, 4 minutes to breathe. So that is a little bit different, but you will have to take a little bit more time to, not so much the breathing pattern, but to focus on the exhale underwater than feeling like you have forever to breathe. And that's honestly a huge thing with most people anyway, is the timing of the inhale and the exhale when you breathe. A lot of people hold their breath underwater, and that's why they find themselves hyperventilating when they swim. It's because they just do that the whole time. They don't have any exhale underwater, no bubbles, no nothing. So that's the biggest thing just to be aware of in practice. You have to, improve your aerobic, anaerobic base. It's just like cycling and running. You know, the harder you go, the harder it is to breathe, you know, when you go from aerobic to anaerobic. So it'll be something that that you'll benefit from, but that'll take some time to get used to. But you'll benefit from greatly because you'll be out of the water like 5 minutes faster, and you won't be going backwards when you swim.
Mm-hmm. You know, I of course, came across total immersion when I was just starting, and it's like so tempting. But man, you just like, after years and years of this, and you got to swim a fuck ton, man, to get better. That's just all it is, you know? It's like, I swear we look for secrets and, form tricks and things up and down the block. But I just think if you swim a lot, and your form isn't hopefully terrible, everybody kind of has a different stroke, and it's like, you try to perfect it, and there's definitely a huge advantage of having a good stroke. I'm not saying that, but the reality is the stronger you get, the more flexible you get, and the longer you can kind of hold form, I just think you start figuring it out, but you got to swim a lot, man. That's the hardest lesson I've learned is that you got to swim hard in the pool. You got to swim long. You got to swim a lot of yards, and you'll become better. But I just think swimming's the hardest one to work at sometimes for people,
100%. Yep. Totally agree.
And then you kind of give it the old, well, it's only,
15%
easiest
excuse
of the
in the
race.
book. Yep.
Just get it done. But it's tough to master all three, and rarely anybody does it. So, I think maybe, just think about it in terms of allocating a little bit more percentage to your swimming. And you get stronger. And the high turnover thing is if you're not in shape for that, you can really screw yourself up too. So you got to build up to that too.
Yeah. And the most important thing is the correct stroke, but it's also not taking forever, right? It's not about your SWAF score. It's about being as efficient and fast at the same time with a lower effort. And it is, you nailed it with swimming. It's funny because the real excuse relationship people have with swimming is that they find it the hardest to do and the most uncomfortable, right? Because they don't know how, they're not very fast, or they don't like being open water. And they pair that with the easiest excuse in triathlon. It's the shortest part, right? So you take the one that they're the worst at, that they're most uncomfortable doing, and then you are kind of like lobbed the easiest one, the easiest excuse in the book for triathlon. It doesn't matter. The swim doesn't matter. It's the shortest part, right? So everyone feels like they have this like built-in excuse to not swim. And you wonder why you've got people as slow as they are in triathlon with the swim. It's because people don't think it's important. And they just, again, we'll talk about it next week, but they forget, and they just don't understand or maybe even realize how much of a negative impact your lack of swim fitness has on any kind of bike and run fitness that you actually have. Tim, has Ironman the company jumped the shark, or is it on the verge of jumping the shark? It has for me personally. The last couple of Ironman branded races have fell short in terms of overall experience compared to when I first started doing them 10 years ago. It's a great question. I will say,
does he mean flip the shark?
I think he means flip the shark. I'm giving him a pass. I think the biggest couple things. One, I think Ironman as a brand and a business has definitely changed in the last few years. But I will also say that the Ironman experience you get is one, also very personal, but it's also very specific to the race director that puts it on. And because, Ironman is a brand, but there's different race directors at, 70% of these races. And it's very, very specific. It's also very specific to the city, right? And the venue. But then also, if you've been doing this for forever, it's not new to you anymore.
Yeah.
Like if a person signed up for their first Ironman is going to go, who's only been to some, small local races, they're going to go to Ironman event and think they're going to the effing Grammys.
Yeah.
They think they have made it. Nothing like it, right? It's like the world has stopped. You got the red carpet. You got, the announcers. You got 3,000 people. You got bike rack. It's ridiculous. But if you've done this for a long time, it doesn't feel the same, right? The energy and the entertainment and the excitement, I think that is different. And I think that, we've also kind of got this not happy medium, this unfortunate spot where triathlon's trying to market itself to more people, and they're trying to do that through television. And that actually provides the opportunity for spectators to not show up in person and to watch online instead of in real life. And I think that has a negative impact on the actual racing in the experience of the gate group athlete. So I think all those play into it. For me, like when I'm not excited anymore when I go to an Ironman, really. I am for the athletes that I'm going to watch, or, if I'm actually going to do a race, but I think it's about what you're looking for out of the experience. And and some people are like, just like you find on Yelp, I went to this restaurant and the waitress, she took 2.5 minutes to refill my soda water. 1 star, never going back. This place is trash. So you have those people. And then you have the people who, you could spill the soda water on their lap and they're still going to tip you 30%. Then everybody else in the middle. So it really is about what you're looking for, how long you've been there. I do think I think 2020 put a huge dent in the spectatorship, if that's even a word, of races because it just kind of gave people a pass to not go anymore and be in public and be around people. And people are just still too comfortable with that. And they'd rather look on the tracker than in person. And so I think that has a negative experience. But outside of that, I mean, we've got Kenny Hammond. He always puts on a great race and a great experience. But and a lot of it is based on, volunteers. How many volunteers you get, and that's not on Ironman. That's on us. And we can blame Ironman for a lot of things. They deserve a lot of blame. But when it comes to volunteers and stuff like that, that's on the triathlete population, right? In general. And so most of those things, and then if you didn't get a shirt, you got the wrong size, like honestly, big effing deal. Like, you might get one, but in the whole scheme of things, it's really not huge. So really, again, it comes down to what you're expecting. Are you expecting too much, or, what value are you seeking? But I think, I think most things have kind of gotten a dent put in the last few years. But from a race director standpoint, if you get a good race director, you get a great experience.
Man, yeah, I don't have much to add to it. I just think that what you said about, I think everything over the last few years has kind of acquired a bit of a malaise to it. It's just sort of, there's a little bit of a, I don't know, no matter what it is, it's, like going to games or like anything in public is just sort of had a little edge taken off of it. And I think, it's up to us to just take that back and get back into it and get fired up about it. I don't know if that's, reasonable discussion, but it certainly is, taking its toll. I just noticed that. I feel like that goes across all areas of life in general, and it just kind of sucks. But yeah, I agree, man. It's like you can't do something, multiple times. I've been either racing or spectating probably close to 25 or 30 Ironman races. I still love the vibe there, but it's just natural human instinct, I guess, the more you do it, the less kind of exciting it feels in some level. But you got to figure out your own. It's always great to just, to be around that energy for me has always been an uplifting experience. So, yeah, let's just, I just take this, I don't want to say take the sport back, but like, let's make it as good as we can, I guess. And
don't bring us problems, bring us solutions. And that's what everybody's attitude should be with most things. Carrie Glenn, with the weather being wonky now, it's like Mother Nature's having hot flashes. Is it okay to move workouts to be outside on the good days, or does that screw things up with training too much? Stick to the schedule, move what you can do to get them outside, but get them all completed. Excellent question. I put training with people along with training for good weather. Always choose train outside and train with people, because even if there is a negative impact, which honestly 99 times out of 100, there is zero negative impact from a physiological standpoint, from like the integrity of the plan, there is no negative impact. Any negative impact that could be had or come up is smashed and crushed 1,000-fold by your the positive take you get from being outside and being around people. Because those things are what keep you moving and going forward and keep you from burning out and keep you from hating winter and keep you from hating being so isolated. And you know what that does? Your lack of hatred for those things keeps you training, keeps you engaged, keeps you doing your thing. And that's, again, like why people need to continue to start looking at technology or more reasons to, train inside, is to look at reasons that make their training for the whole year and their whole triathlete life cycle more sustainable, which is taking opportunities to do that. Don't ask, do it. Like an athlete on maybe Thursday or Friday said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this ride with my buddies on Saturday, but you've got this workout with a few intervals, what should I do? And I was like, dude, I can't believe you're asking me this question. I don't care. Go work out with your buddies. Mm-hmm. Because honestly, the benefit you get from that, the high you get from that, far outweighs your workout alone in your basement hitting your numbers. And that is just the most underrated, understated piece of success in training that so many people overlook is the positive impact and the jolt you get from interaction and contact. We've forgotten it and we become dull to it, and it's unfortunate. But there's also an opportunity every day, right? Or at least once a week or whatever it is, to take advantage of it. And then not just, no, maybe not today. Maybe not this year. Maybe not forever. I'll just live alone and die. And then that's what happens. So take advantage of it. Always go outside if you can. Always.
Would you do
always be around people when you can?
Okay.
I mean, unless it's, maybe not every day, but for the most part, take advantage of it. They are the same. Great weather, great people. Always choose those.
Would you do me a favor and repeat that question? I was distracted. Seriously, I was doing. Yeah, I kind of didn't catch it all. So
yeah, so Carrie Glenn just said, with the weather being wonky, it's like Mother Nature is having hot flashes. Is it okay to move workouts to be outside on the good days, or does that screw things up with training too much?
Oh.
And I just kind of said no.
I heard your answer.
Always go outside, and then I just kind of paired that with the same kind of thought process I have about, skipping your solo workout with structure to go be around people. Always choose to be, to go do it around people outside.
Yeah, I mean, there's oxygen out there. It's good, fresh air. But you're right. I think just getting tied in too much to specific workouts all the time when you have opportunities is, I mean, unless you're going into that deep monk mode, which I can totally get behind. Get out, and because that's the other thing is like underrated is training outside for race performance too. The amount of people that kind of just do all their riding inside and then they get on the course that day, I just think it plays into how you feel and your confidence level. And if you're not used to running or riding outside a lot, I think it hurts. So do it.
There's no think it hurts. It does hurt.
Yeah,
don't put too many people, then you'll be putting the anti, training inside train. That gets a lot of hate mail. Next one from Leah. Too. Is there a how to not suck at running podcast?
Yep.
Yeah, I think there is.
There's three.
Right? There's
a
how to. What's that?
I think there's 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3. It might be titled. It's either to be titled "How to Not Suck at Running." I know there's one specifically titled that, or "Run Slow to Get Fast." So yes, there are those. Go read those. And then lastly, she said, "What's the most crucial thing to focus on wanting to be faster?" I would say just being consistent with your running, and then your running economy, like how well you run. That is, I was listening to a podcast the other morning with one of the top pro coaches in the world, and he said that the running economy is the most important thing in professional triathlon, because at that level, if you take the top 20 females and the top 20 males in the sport, that they all have very, very, very similar physiological makeups, with their VO2 being a certain level, their VLA max being a certain level, their bike fits, their equipment, everything is so specific and so close, because they're at that pointy end, right, where milliseconds and minutes over an Ironman matter, that if they all got off the bike together, it would be how efficient an athlete is, efficiency meaning how great and how good their running economy is, that allows them to win. And I think it was honestly a perfect example of this last year's race. Christian Blumenfeld has, even by their own release of information, has a much higher VO2 max than his counterpart, Gustav Iden. But Christian Blumenfeld, while he has an insanely good run form, he looks like he's always trying harder when he runs. Gustav Iden looks as efficient as humanly possible. So they could both be at an effort 8, right? They could both be using 95% of their VO2 max, but Gustav would be going faster because he's more efficient. Same thing goes with the women's field. You saw Chelsea Sodaro, who to me has unbelievable run form, right? Same thing. Great run form, perfect efficiency, great running economy. You could actually be quote unquote less fit, right? Maybe a lower VO2 max and still win because you're that much more efficient. And so I would say that is to focus on being an efficient runner, and then making sure you're just being consistent with it, and not trying to run, like you said. She said, I'm slow. I struggle to improve my speed. I feel off balance when sprinting. It's a perfect example of you need to work on how to run well first. And that could be done with a lot of things. But that's what I would focus on. And again, go back and listen to the again, we have a few How to Not Suck at Running podcasts, and I think one is also titled Run Slow to Get Fast. But yeah, excellent question. And I think running is always kind of one of those where if you tell me you hate running or you can't get faster, it's because you've always done it the wrong way. Or because if you hate running, you're trying to run too fast. Everyone will hate running if you try to run your fastest every time, because you'll feel destroyed and you'll be out of breath in 2 seconds. And usually that's what happens. That's one of the things I love most about working with people is how you used to hate running. Is they're like, man, I didn't know I could ever love running so much. I'm like, yeah, you just got to do it the right way and you'll love doing it. And if you love doing something, you do more of it. If you do more of it, you get faster. It sounds easy, and actually it kind of is.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying about swimming. You got to do it a lot. And I love the run economy discussion, because it's one of those things where I feel like, I grew up and I feel like I know how to run short distances, but I can't hold it. And the more I run these days, for example, the more I find that economy place. And I think about it all the time. I don't know exactly, I don't say if I don't know how to do it, but I'm always thinking about it, because sometimes now, like if you run a lot, if you're running frequently and consistently, you start having these moments where you're like, this feels real easy. What am I doing here? Kind of thing. And I always kind of think about it as a really good balance. Yeah. And it's almost like you're not running. I mean, you are, but like, I think the misnomer about running is that when we grow up as kids, we're always running fast and we're digging in and stuff like that. And we don't, frankly, kind of understand what jogging means anymore. We used to call it jogging, but I think that somewhere in that jogging discussion is running easy and really feeling balanced and light, sort of light with your stride, because it's, that's the thing I notice the most is like, I don't even sometimes know exactly what's going on, but I'm like, I'm right. Whatever this is, I got to stay right here, and you just kind of repeat it over and over and over. And I think that's the thing is repetition of putting your feet in the right place and lifting them up the correct way. And a lot of it really does come down to momentum and lifting your feet versus always thinking about pushing off. And I always get this topic about hills, and I've always just been fairly comfortable running up hills, and I always talk to people about it's like, it's not pushing up it, it's lifting yourself up it. And that's like, that's more like hip drive and just kind of falling up hills sort of thing. So it's just, I think those are the things that you sort of figure out when you run consistently and run frequently. Efficiency is king. Consistency and efficiency. We've got, let's see, we got like 5 more, and with your permission, if we can get them all today, I'm going to blaze through these. Is that cool? Yeah, 5 more. Jesus. Yeah, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more. This is going to be the longest cast in history. Yeah, I know. Here we go. Elke, I really don't like training indoors in a trainer. Luckily, I live close to a velodrome and ride there regularly. I particularly enjoy the social aspect and feel that my bike handling skills have improved greatly. I am training for Ironman Mount Tremblant and can start riding outdoors on my TT bike in April. Question, can I successfully train on the track during the winter months, or should I dust off my trainer that's been sitting in my garage for 3 years? Keep that trainer in your garage. You have the perfect setup. You're, like you said, you can get a uninterrupted trainer, intense workout done while focused with no traffic and no lights, and work on your bike handling. That is the greatest setup possible. We had that back at Nashville at the lab. And that is the one thing I miss the most about Nashville is the lab and my mom. But outside of that, the lab. So definitely keep hitting that.
Jared, you guys mentioned something about shaving cream in your bike shorts recently in the podcast. I think you must have misunderstood or misheard that we said chamois cream.
Oh,
But yeah, if you don't have chamois cream, then you're missing out. So yeah, buy some chamois cream. Wendy, I want to do Ironman in Florida, and I live in Wisconsin. How do you prepare yourself for the salt water when you train in fresh water? I don't know. I don't see any difference. I think water is water. If anything, you're going to be faster in salt water. There really isn't anything to train for. You might want to bring some water. Usually at Ironman Florida or saltwater races, they have like hose stations where you can hose the salt water off you, but you will be faster in salt water because of the buoyancy. So you don't have to prepare. Actually, if you prepare in freshwater, you'd be actually faster. Julie, when is the best time for a 70.3 to schedule an Olympic or sprint to work out the kinks, transitions, and nutrition? I would go probably 7 to 9 weeks out is where I would probably say it. And then the last two from Chase, as a larger fella, relatively out of shape, I hate running. But I have recently found I don't completely hate trail running. I know there are a lot of benefits from trail running, but if I do it for the foreseeable future as my main running, 90%-ish, is there a downside? These aren't your typical bike trails. Think more like dirt, gravel, roads, sometimes path through a field. I did Ohio 70.3, survived, took some time off. I think it would help my plantar fasciitis. It still hurts, so I decided I might as well run and be miserable and not run to be miserable. Trail running has seemed to help alleviate it. It sounds to me like you did an excellent job of finding a way to continue on and finding your favorite. And I think that's crucial. You said two things that I think are pretty self-explanatory. I hate running. I don't hate trail running. And so if you don't hate it, you're going to do it. So if you run more, like we said, one of the questions above, if you don't hate it, you're going to do it. If you do it, you're going to get better at it. If you get better at it, you're going to even like it more. You're going to keep doing it, which makes you better. If you hate it, you're not going to do it. Then when you do it, you're going to be slower, so you're going to hate it even more. This is a simple one for me. Keep running dirt, road, gravel as much as you can until you get to the point to where you feel like you're healthy enough or you're in a mental place enough to where you can go tackle the asphalt and not feel such hatred towards just running in general.
My mind's still back on that velodrome.
I know you're totally jealous, aren't you?
I'm just sitting there going, wow. Yeah, because you're right, man. That's the thing I miss the most is the lab. Man, that thing was just like, get out there and just let it rip. That's what I loved about that thing. It was so hard and beastly.
It was just mentally just freaking. I mean, it was 1.2 mile lap that we did around this abandoned airfield. I think I did a century out there one time.
Yeah, I know.
And I think I'm still mentally scarred from it. But
it's like, you did what?
Yeah, I know. I got some screws loose. Amelia Van Dyke, I'd love to hear your 2 cents about lactate testing. I'll give you 0 cents because I think it makes 0 sense for age group athletes to do, period. Cat Rob, you rate the value of a 20-minute run, which works. Let's see, your question disappeared. Yeah, this is the last one. You rate the value of a 20-minute run, which works wonders to clock up time. What about a 20-minute swim and a 30-minute ride? Are they also better than nothing or barely worth it? They're 100% better than nothing. And I think, and this is a great place to end it, I think, especially in the time of year that we're in and people are looking for motivation, looking for reasons to do things or not do things, is that for me, for both myself as an athlete and as a coach, you get just as much, if not more, benefit from the habit than you do the session itself, right? By making it a habit to make time and to make these positive choices, doing a run for 20 minutes, get in the pool for 20 minutes, right? Hop on the bike for 30 minutes. What it does is it creates a thought pattern and a commitment level that's going to increase your chances of being successful when the requirement next is to run for 40 or to swim for an hour or to bike for an hour and a half. Because if you make time for the stuff that, again, going back to the very, very beginning about talking about goals, to make time and to focus on and see the importance in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, if you can do that, then it's going to be easy to find the time, the energy, and the motivation to do the 60s, the 90s, and the hour and 20s. And I think that, again, I can't emphasize that enough, that the habits and the mental focus and attention to detail it takes to focus on the little things just basically snowballs when you go longer. And so I 100% think they're all worth it and all have value.
Yeah. That's how I get into it, man. I can't, I just leave my bike shorts on my bike, and every time I walk by there, I'm kind of like, should I get on for 30? And a lot of times I do. I'll just clip in and just spin it. And it does. It's really weird. It's almost like it makes that 30 minutes, like when you're on a trainer, how you're looking at the time. And certain, if you get to the point where it's like, oh, I'm 30 minutes in, I didn't even think about it. I think you're right, man. It's the habit. It's just building that sort of stamina and the ability to just start snowballing. Like you said, that is huge. This is a snowball-y sport, man.
All about the snow. Hopefully we get some tonight. Hopefully you guys don't get too much. You can be outside, running, riding, hanging out with your buddies. As always, we love you. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate the questions as always. Did our best to answer those as best we could. And go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for coaching for the year, look in the coaching tab and peruse the coach that might be right for you. If you're looking for ways to support the podcast, it's easy. It's simple. One, give us a good solid love you rating on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. And then also go to the gear tab and buy some swag. We got some new, very nice C26 swag, hoodies, hats, bottles. Check it out. That is the best way to support us. Again, we don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. And we don't shill products we don't believe in, but we do offer ways to support us and the podcast to keep it rolling. So, and that is the best way. It's a give and take. You give us, the opportunity to do this, and you get some swag in return. And so, yeah, go there, check it out. A lot of great gear. And I think Mike has a few C26 thongs that he's actually modeled on that page. If you want to go to the last one, and those are premium. Those are $99.99. We only have 5 left, so if you want one of those, hurry up and you can go ahead and make that purchase.
Yeah, and Tommy Bonds is modeling the sports bra.
Tommy's got the sports bra. That's right. Tommy Bonds the sports bra.
Yeah, and also don't forget the personalized notes that I leave in there. Those seem to be.
You don't get that anywhere else.
No, they can be a little bit off the wall, but I'm telling you, I give it a shot.
He gives it a shot. That's it. That's all we got. We'll see you on Friday with another amazingly mediocre podcast. Have a great week. We'll see you then.
See you, buddy.